There were countless events that ended with me getting that book. I would like to think that it was more than just chance, but I know it wasn't. We had been giving The Alchemist as the last book assigned for the semester. I knew it was about following your destiny or some bullshit like that, but I didn't know the journey it would take me on. I opened the book one night and noticed a note card fell out on my desk. I picked it up, curious and bored. After examining the mysterious piece of paper, I found some numbers written on the side. I decided to figure out what those numbers meant, if they meant anything at all. I first thought they were just an identification code or something, but after a short time I became convinced they were coordinates. Now, more intrigued by this enigma, I decided to figure out where those two numbers led me. After a little while longer, I found the location they pointed to. The coordinates directed me to La Jolla. Without the time to go that night, I planned to go Friday evening. My best friend Noah decided to come along for the journey. We rode our motorcycles, knowing traffic would be heavy going to the beach at rush hour on a Friday. I don't know why we got into riding, but it was probably some combination of the cool factor and subconscious desire to play chicken with death. The first ride was great. The sun was setting and the view going west was gorgeous. Add that to the list of reasons why we ride. By the time we got to the beach, it was getting dark. I had decided to bring a little garden tool. Who knows what we would find at the spot. Not seeing anything outstanding, we went to the coordinates and started to dig. We joked as we dug and enjoyed the beach. The joking eventually faded into the somber silence of work, digging hole after hole in search of the unknown. We sat there wondering if the work we were doing was in search of something non-existent. Was the number really just a number? Eventually, the pick struck something hard. I brushed the sand away, revealing a wooden box. Excited at this discovery, I opened the box. Instead of gold or some sort of treasure, we found a note. All it had were 2 more coordinates on it. We both were fully engaged in our own little mystery. Who had planted this here? Why did they do it? What is at the next coordinate? Figuring we should keep the adventure alive for posterity, we buried the little box exactly where we found it. When we punched in the new coordinates, we found they were leading us to Balboa Park. Riding in the chilled breeze of night was refreshing, and I finally felt my last few weeks of school would have some excitement and purpose. As we walked along the streets, I thought of a forgotten World's Fair. I heard the music of a prom happening at a museum. I wondered how many people would remember that night for the rest of their lives. The holes we dug that night were challenging. The pick refused to break the seemingly ancient soil. But at the same time, the holes were also more meaningful. We knew what we were looking for. Taking turns at striking into the abyss, we finally found the box. But all we found was another note and more coordinates. Calling it a night, we decided to meet up the next day to continue the quest. Those 2 evenings I spent with Noah were a perfect culmination of the childhood we shared together. Adventuring around the city, visiting memories that were woven into the fabric of our souls, if such a thing even existed. By the 3rd cache, we were discouraged and tired, thinking this was just some prank on 2 hopeful adventurers. Again, just the same type of box with the same piece of paper, only new coordinates. We both knew finals week was approaching and decided that this weekend was the only weekend we would go out looking for the end of this journey. The 4th cache was out in the cliffs of La Jolla. The sky had become gray and the wind chilled my fingers. The mountains stood like ancient guardians. We hiked along the ridge, looking out over the infinite expanse, both somehow knowing this was the end of our search. We stood and admired the nautical view. Gusts of wind assaulting the cliffs chilled my body but warmed my spirits. Eventually, we started to dig, somewhat afraid of the cliff breaking off at the last moment when we found our treasure, burying our adventure. When I struck the box, my heart filled with excitement. I unearthed a small wooden chest like an archaeologist digging up an old treasure. Without the dramatic flair of Hollywood, I opened the lid. Part of me wasn't surprised by what we found, but another part of me couldn't believe it. We sat there staring at an empty box together, wondering about the utter pointlessness of the search we just ended. With no card and no coordinates, we weren't sure what to do. I don't know if that box should have had another coordinate, or maybe some type of treasure. Now I see that the burial of that box concluded an adventure that was just as good a gift as any treasure. Would we have spent that time together otherwise? Would we have had a better excuse to spend the last few weeks of school seeing the city with wiser eyes? We sat there watching the view, and the longer I thought, the more I was sure the box was supposed to be empty. I had just finished the book that led us there earlier that day. Sans the pseudo-Christian ideology, I think the author addressed a deeper existential problem, and I think burying that empty box answered it. Nothing matters, and it doesn't matter that nothing matters. So why not go on an adventure with your best friend to see the world and bury an empty box?
I miss the old Kanye, straight from the gold Kanye. Chop up the soul Kanye, set on his goals Kanye. I hate the new Kanye, the bad mood Kanye, the always rude Kanye, spaz in the news Kanye. I miss the sweet Kanye, chop up the beats Kanye. I gotta say, at that time I'd like to meet Kanye. See, I invented Kanye, it wasn't any Kanye. And now I look around and there's so many Kanyes. I used to love Kanye, I used to love Kanye. I even had the pink polo.